Hey there, Groovesters, Groove Stars, Ridgely here, excited for another Groove Growth program with a dear friend. We go way back now, a few years, which is kind of cool. A person who defines herself as a dating strategist, confidence therapist, and image expert that I'm also proud to call a mentor and friend. Kimmy Seltzer, thanks so much for joining us in the Groove community. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. I was excited to do this with you.
Well, I'm fired up about this. I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about style and how that impacts leadership and all kinds of groovy stuff. But do me a favor before we get into that. Take us back. How did you become an entrepreneur? How did you start on this journey? Give us the lowdown, the history, so to speak.
Oh my God, how long do we have? Because my journey has so many twists and turns. As I was going down my yellow brick road and collecting tools in my little basket. And I'm glad you asked about my story because, when sometimes people look at my bio, it's like I've had great like professional type of experiences, but really the reason why I'm so passionate about doing what I do is my own story, is kind of like the stuff that I have been through. And I guess, well, you asked about entrepreneur, but if I can rewind even a step back from there, because my life didn't look like how it did now. And it relates to my story, what I do today. I was this kind of good girl from Chicago. And I lived a very, what I would say, traditional life. I was a therapist for many, many years. And so I was not an entrepreneur. I always worked for somebody or a facility and collected my little paycheck. And I call them little because I laughed back then what I made in a year, I now make in a month. But when we were, I was married at the time. I had the picket fence. I had the kids, the dog. Everything was going on as planned. I still have the kids, by the way, but you see where the story's going. And so so we all like pick up and we move across the country and we land here in La La Land. I'm here in Los Angeles, and we end up doing what all the other people here do. We get a divorce. I'm joking. Obviously, like there were issues, right? Like going on in this little fairy tale of mine. And I like to blame LA, but honestly, I think I still would have ended up in the same place. And, this is where the record stopped. And the traditional life as I knew it completely went away, like literally poof in an instant. And I didn't know what I was going to do with my new life. All I knew was to be a mom, to be a therapist, and in a very, structured and traditional environment. And honestly, I was in a really dark place. I mean, if you had seen me back then, I would not be wearing pink. I will tell you that. I was definitely in dismal black clothes. I looked like the frumpy mom. I was still wearing my nursing bras. I wasn't nursing any longer. I had flip-flops. I mean, it was not attractive. And I just really, I wasn't sure. Oh, and here's the kicker. I'm a therapist, right? Like I should know better. I did all the traditional things that I taught, right? Working from the inside out. I had therapy myself. I had a great support system. Everybody rallied around me and I did the work, but I still couldn't get out of my own way. And I literally was about to give up. And when sometimes like you asked about the road and my journey, there's a fork in the road. And I was really going down the path of the dark path. And I honestly just felt stuck in my clothes, stuck in my mindset. And so one day I woke up and my life completely changed in this pivotal moment. I decided to look in the mirror, take a hard look in the mirror. And I hated what I saw. Like I really saw this frumpy mom, and I decided to do something really untraditional. And that was go shopping, retail therapy, right? So I know you and I have talked about this online, and you have great fashion, by the way, Ridgely, and everyone, and image, the way that we see ourselves is definitely something that kind of predicts how we get treated, how we treat ourselves. I mean, it's all intertwined. And so when I saw myself in my closet filled with black clothes and maybe a splash of beige, I was like, okay, there needs to be some color in my life. I need to get new clothes. And I lost a lot of weight. So I go to the store and I am pulling all these new clothes, thinking I'm up leveling myself. I'm going to like get a new career, new man, like everything's going to go on as planned. And I'm looking at the clothes. No, I'm doing all the same things. I'm grabbing black clothes. And this personal shopper, she came up to me and she says, ma'am, I've been watching you and I really think you should try this on. I now call her my guardian angel because I looked at her and I looked at this dress and I said, that is really sweet of you, but that is so not my size. And that's really red. And she said, honey, that is your size. That is your color. Try it on.
Wow. That's pretty bold.
It was bold. And, it was like she hit me over the head with that red dress. I call it my red dress moment. And now it's like something that I give all my clients. Everyone needs to have a red dress moment. And when I came to, I was like, she's right. I need to do something different. I need to feel different because everything up here was like analysis, paralysis, analysis, like all those things that just was stuck in my head. So I slip it on and I twirl around like Cinderella and I look in the mirror once again and bam. I couldn't believe what I saw. I saw almost like, to me, in my eyes, a princess in a red dress. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel differently. I see myself completely different. And so I decided to buy that dress and I bought it as a costume. I call it a costume because I still didn't believe it. But I went out into the world and I practiced wearing it. And here's something that's really profound that happened. I realized that as I walked out into the world in this red dress, I was finally being seen. And I didn't like it.
Interesting.
And that was the realization, is that this whole time I was wearing the black clothes as a black cloak to keep me invisible from you alien men because I was scared. I was scared that I wasn't worthy or good enough. I was a frumpy mom, like it was all that like gremlin stuff that was going on in my head. And so I just had to get comfortable being seen. And it was the first time I realized there was a symbiotic relationship between the outer and the inner when it comes to confidence, that it's not superficial, that how we market ourselves is directly related to what we attract and who we are and what the messages we send out. So that's where everything started happening. And I kind of flipped the script in how I work and even just getting used to it. And then I started getting used to being seen and my confidence started growing. And from here on out, and this is what I help others with because it was my own journey, is that I work from the outside in, not the inside out. And I start with how we market ourselves through our clothes, through our body language, our energy. And I have this unique formula called the Charisma Quotient, which is my podcast. And I'll tell you the other components, but it really kind of starts with the outside. And then I kind of go inward and, helping people break patterns.
So fast forward from the red dress moment, if you will, standing there going, whoa, who is that right there? To stepping outside, getting used to being seen, to now being a leader in helping others with their image, their confidence, their strategy for attraction with others. It's a pretty remarkable transformation. And oh, by the way, doing it as a real therapist at the same time, who needed a lot of therapy for herself first.
Right.
To get there.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I remember in that moment thinking, like, if anyone had come to me during that period, that black period of time, I thought, like, you think you have issues? Let me go on the couch for a second. There's no way I can help you. I can't even help myself. But that's a really good question. And it kind of segues into almost like the second part of my journey with just being an entrepreneur, is that, we are what we attract what we are. And in that moment, I did not see myself as a leader. I just considered myself a mom and a therapist. It was a different mindset. And in those moments, I didn't believe that I could actually charge somebody to help somebody. Like, it was like, wait, I'm going to charge somebody and make money off of just helping you. That's not what I do. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help. And there was this whole journey that I had to go through also in how I value myself and helping others. And it wasn't until I saw myself as valuable until I started getting comfortable seeing the value and charging, because I knew I could help others. And so that was a whole journey in itself. I mean, it started with the red dress, but as I'm building confidence within myself as like a single person and also as an entrepreneur, it was an incredible kind of like segue into my next phase. And yeah, like if you would have like asked me way back when that I would be doing what I'm doing as a leader. And I just did a TEDx, and like, I never in a million years would have imagined that. But it wasn't until I like really pulled in and said, this is my value. And I am here to help others. And the thing too, and just this is more of a business thing, is that I wasn't trained in business, like I was trained as a therapist. And so that was another journey, is really learning the business side of things, which you're so brilliant of, and like looking at mentors and just developing relationships along the way with that too.
And how was that? So how was that sort of inner shift that has to happen? Jim Rohn talks about it's all the inner game, right? It's all about the inner game. That shift that had to happen on the inside. What would you say to those entrepreneurs that are out there? They're looking at that situation and they're seeing, of course, they never knew the dark black period. They only know the bright, shiny, gorgeous period of now, right? So it's kind of like, well, I don't know what she used to look like, but dang, I'd like to get to this level right now. What was the big transformation? How did that work for you?
Well, it kind of like it is connected to the formula that I really teach now. And that is like the Charisma Quotient Formula. And I just want to like highlight the word charisma, because I believe it's the foundation in attracting anything and everything you want. And there's so much research out there. I've been like looking at it as a way of like developing just the attraction factor, both in business and love. And what's really interesting is research shows that charisma isn't something that you're born with. It's something that's learned. And what it excites me about that is that means I can teach it, And so where I started was the red dress moment. And this is where I call it raising people's style intelligence, is it's the quickest gateway into somebody's confidence. Like there's nothing like somebody coming out of a dressing room with a new outfit that fits them, that suits them, that is an instant like confidence booster. And then it also like coordinates with the body language, right? That sends the signals out, helping people be more charismatic in their presentation and their energy. I teach a lot about flirting. I believe flirting is something that's super important. And what's great about that is as you're sending signals out there, you're feeling good, people are responding to it. And so there's, again, this like symbiotic relationship, and that helps inherently you grow in that confidence as a leader. But then from there, after you kind of dial in your marketing, and this was my journey too, is really understanding emotional intelligence and how you express yourself. And I know you do a lot of work with this as well in a different way, but like understanding like my emotions, being in my vulnerability and authenticity and how I relate to people, that's something that I teach both in business and love, because, people want to do business with people they like. Like you could be the smartest one in the room, but if people don't like you, it's going to be hard to connect with them. So that's a big part. And then the third part of the charisma quotient is your social intelligence, how you manage interpersonal communication, networking skills, your social comfort, all the things that matter when it comes to relating and connecting. And again, like it's so funny because people think it's really different when it comes to dating. All these skills are so important in business as well. So like with my journey, I was learning that along the way. And then now this is what I teach.
Mm-hmm. So break it down for us then. How does one increase their charisma or raise the charisma quotient?
Well, let's start with each pillar and then I can give you like some tips,
Perfect. Love
along
that.
the way.
I want them. I'm ready.
I
Wide
don't know.
open.
You have some pretty good style going on. I love the red glasses, by the way, like fantastic. Wait a second. You just like, okay. It's a whole new level, those glasses. So for those of you like watching, that's fantastic. Yeah, because that makes a statement now in so many ways. I will start with, everybody can do a closet audit and look and see the kinds of things that are working for you and working against you. And I have this formula, I call it the 3C formula, that everyone could do right now. And the first C is the cut of your clothes. I'm very scientific in the way I approach clothes. And it's really about, like, if you're a woman, there are 5 body types, and it's measuring your shoulders, your waist, your hips to determine what body type you are. And I'm happy to give your listeners a free style guide for those of you who know and want to know your body type. And it goes over what clothes flatter your figure and what clothes, really to stay away from, because that increases your confidence. Once you know what cut to put on your body, then you feel better as you're moving in those clothes. And for men, there are 3 body types. I have a man's fashion manifesto for you men out there, because men secretly want to know about fashion. They just don't talk about it on a Sunday afternoon, like women do. And so knowing also grooming, men, we don't ask for much, trim the nose hairs. Like, it's really, there's like simple things that you can do to make a big difference. But so I would say just the cut of your clothes is the first C. And then the second C is color. Color is super important. In fact, there's a lot of studies about color and ways of attraction, both for clients and for love. Like, for instance, red is a color of attraction. So I always tell people in their profile, wear something red of some sort, because it's going to make somebody stop and see your picture. Even with authority. So blue, like in business, if you're wearing blue, especially as a man, that demands more authority. So it's really interesting. And a lot of times people wear kind of dull or washed out color, but when you pop a color, it makes a statement. It's eye-catching. There's confidence behind color too. Just make sure that color flatters your skin tone, because everyone has different skin tone. And the third C is what I call confidence clothes. Like, everyone has an outfit that they can pull right now from their closet. Take a look at that. If that's your go-to outfit, what is it about that outfit that you like? Do you get compliments? Do you like the way it feels? Is it something that just feels good on your body? Like, whatever that is, just assess it so you can replicate that, in other parts of your wardrobe. So that's where I would start with the style piece. I mean, beyond that, there's body language things to work on, are you making eye contact? Are you smiling? Just looking up, looking around, engaging in life. That's part of the charisma is, 93% of communication is nonverbal. So what you say isn't even as important as how you show up. And that can break so many barriers when you're walking in a room. And what's really interesting? There's been some studies done, like if you're a speaker, for instance, and you're selling, the minute that you walk in the room, people are already making judgments and assumptions whether or not they're going to buy from you. Mm-hmm. Right? Just based on your energy, your attitude, and the clothes that you're wearing. That's a first impression. And now it only takes 7 seconds. It used to be like 30 seconds a couple of years ago. It's 7 seconds now. So this is really cool stuff to dial in. I mean, and these are things that are tangible, that are immediate, that you can work on, that will boost your confidence right away. So that's the style intelligence. Yes.
Yeah, no, I love that. And me, I'm a red person. Everything I do is red. My phone is red. My wallet is red.
You have red shoes too.
Red. I have red shoes, red shorts on right now, pretending like I have real pants on, but I really don't. I live in Florida. Don't need to.
Yeah.
And my color's completely red, always red, everything. So in this, because now I'm curious.
Okay.
This closet audit, I've been thinking recently how, especially guys, I think are like the worst at this. somebody gives you another shirt, you just hang it on the rack. You get another shirt and hang it on the rack. And I was just literally thinking, well, a few days ago, like, I need to clear out my closet, man. I got so much stuff in here that I probably haven't worn in years. Is that a recommended, Kimmy Seltzer, like, get that stuff out of there, bro?
Yeah, okay. So the official rule from an image consulting standpoint is if you haven't worn it in 2 years, get rid of it. Mm-hmm. I'm not so like black and white with it. Sometimes you have things in your closet that you don't even realize exists that are still great. So, I think it depends on how organized you are. Like my recommendation, like when I actually used to go into closets and help people organize. And the thing that I found interesting is to just like sort through each of your items and see, like, first of all, how often you wear something and start categorizing them, because sometimes, you have different parts of your life. Like you live in Florida, right? Like wearing jeans is probably slim to none, like in many aspects, unless you're going out at night or you have a networking event or something like that. So just put like different categories of your outfits and see, like, are there missing pieces that you need? Are there pieces that just keep hanging in the closet? Do you still have like tags on some of your items? Like what's going on in the closet? And there's other things too, is like, what are your reasons for hanging on to things? A lot of like psychological attachments are there because there might be some memories that go with certain outfits. Like maybe it was your first date with your wife. You have a hard time with those items. I create what I call a memory box and just put them in a box out of your closet and put it in like the garage or somewhere else, so that it feels like you still have it and you can still hang on to it and you can still say hi to it, but then it's not crowding your closet and you make room for new stuff.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah. Now I'm even more driven after this conversation. That I'm like, okay, I've been talking about this, but every couple months, you really need to do that. It's one of those round to it things that you never quite get round to it, but now it's in my consciousness on a deeper level. So, okay, we're going there.
Well, it's really fun. I do these virtual makeovers, and actually this has been even a bigger service that I have since the pandemic. And I have these virtual closets where I have people upload pictures of themselves, and then I take them shopping online and I pin different looks into their closet. And it's great. And what's interesting is I always make people take pictures of themselves in outfits, and I won't even do the session unless they give me the pictures. And the reason for that is often what we see in the mirror is different than what we see outside of ourselves. And that's what usually other people see. And it's really like profound. A lot of times people are like, oh my God, I didn't realize how bad I looked until I like put the pictures up. So that's another thing you can do for yourself. Is just take pictures of yourself and see how you look in those outfits, especially like if you're in business or you have like you're speaking on stage or you have a date, like really take a look at how you're presenting.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. I love it. Okay. What else? So we got the 3 C's, a closet audit. Now what's next?
Okay. So that's some tips for your style intelligence, right? And then we talked about body language and like really making sure that you're being open in your body language and also with what you're wearing, which is the first impression. Then the second pillar is your emotional intelligence. And, with that, I mean, that's deeper work, that I do with clients. But what I will say is even practicing, like while you're networking or you're at a party or you're on a date, doing more shares in ways of like storytelling. And that's a great way of practicing vulnerability. People mistakenly say, oh, vulnerability is like TMI, too much information. And that's not what vulnerability means when you're first meeting someone. It's being human. It's sharing like stories, like what I just did right here. Like I could have started this interview with just talking about my professional background. I mean, who cares? Like it's my story that like is more human and maybe relatable to some of you who are listening. And so the more you practice just sharing how you feel and using feeling words like emotion triggers while you're on like that first date or the first impression conversation, it's going to make a huge difference in the way that you connect with people, and people will want to move on with you. depending on what that is. So that's something that I think everyone can also practice. And then the third pillar is social intelligence, which is like how we manage interpersonal communication. Obviously, the storytelling is part of it, but one thing that I always have people, just really practice is being playful and flirting. I mean, even if you are married or you're with someone, flirting is a way of life. It's a magnetism that just draws people to you. And what's really interesting is if you look in the dictionary, you know what the definition of flirting is? I love it. It's awesome.
What?
It's to behave as though you are attracted to someone without the serious intention of an outcome. And that last part is awesome because that's usually why people don't do it, because they're getting attached to what's next. Meaning, oh, I don't want to give, the wrong idea. I don't like that person. I'm not attracted to that person. Everything is outcome oriented, but flirting is supposed to be about the presence. It's a playfulness that just draws people to you. And so the more like goofy you are and playful you are, people will want to know you and connect with you. I'll share a funny story. I was coaching women. I actually go out in the field and I coach people a lot. And it's one of my services. People call me Hitchette, like the movie Hitch. And so we go out and I was teaching this woman how to flirt, and she was so stiff and she was so serious. And we walked into this bar and there were a bunch of people. It was like during Halloween, and they had cat ears on, much like these. They looked like these. And so I went up to one of them and I said, "Oh my gosh, what kind of party are you having? Can we join?" And my client was like horrified because she was like, "We can't crash a party. We can't talk to them." And I said, "But why not? People are so in their head. And if that is something that you struggle with, that prevents you from, just moving on and being open and playful and present." So they actually loved that we were talking to them. They gave us these ears. And for the rest of the night, we kept our ears on, and it became this like talking piece. And we were seen as more playful. We met so many people. And that night, a guy ended up asking my client out. And she thought I planted that guy there. And I said, no, that's just what happens when you create flirtation and charisma.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that. It's interesting because in the business space, we talk about this a lot, being an attractive person, being generous, being fun and loving. And one of the biggest things that, I wrote the book JV Hacking with my partner, Glenn Ledwell. And, we talk about all the time, buy people a drink. Buying a drink leads to playfulness. It leads to all those things that you talk about. Be that guy, that gal that shows up and says, "Hey, I'm going to order a drink. Anybody need one?" Right. Scan the immediate vicinity. Amazing how many friends you have like in 2 seconds.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I teach a lot is, because people have a hard time with initiation. I have this whole formula, I call it the social engagement formula, that moves people out of their head into something that's more playful, fun, heartfelt, so that, conversation becomes also easier. And one of the tips that I tell people is look in your environment and just get curious about the things in your environment to start with. So if you're at a bar, start with a drink. If you notice like a cute dress that someone's wearing, comment on the dress, just use something that's very present rather than a line that feels connected to the person that you're talking to. And so, like your example of the drink is perfect, or even asking somebody, what drink is that? That looks really good. It doesn't have to be so sexy and witty. Like it could be just something very like in the moment. Sometimes the best conversations are the most ridiculous ones. I remember there was a client, she would get really nervous with initiation, and we were sitting at a bar, and especially when she was attracted to someone, and who sits next to her, but this really like hot guy in her mind. Right. And so she stiffens up and she like turns to me and she looks and she says, "I can't do it. I can't do it." I said, "Okay, deep breath." I said, "What are you thinking about right now?" She's like, "Well, actually nothing that has to do with him." I said, "Great. Just tell me what's on your mind." She's like, "Well, actually I was looking out that window and I thought it was raining for a second," which is an anomaly in LA, as you know. And it wasn't, it was stained glass and it looked like it was raining. And I said, that's fantastic. Just say that. She's like, what? I said, just say what's on your mind. That's fantastic. And so she turned to him and said, hey, have you ever noticed that window? It looked like I thought it was raining here in LA. And he laughed and he thought it was great. And then they were off to the races. So I think sometimes, like, again, like so many people think too much. And I know especially entrepreneurs. And if you are in like the technical world, you tend to be a little more left brain, I will just say. And left brainers are a little more analytical. So there's a lot of thinking and over analyzing that's happening. And that's what makes conversations and networking so hard sometimes too. And maybe you're an introvert or whatever you're labeling yourself as. I've helped the people who like label themselves introverts actually become extroverts, because really that was just a mislabel due to the lack of experience. So at the end of the day, like all of the stuff that we're talking about really has to do with experience and confidence. And that's how I think they're one and the same. Confidence is just experience. Usually we lack confidence when we're not exposed to something or have had positive exposure to something. So how do you get it? You practice and you do it over and over and over again until it becomes you.
And then it becomes a heck of a lot easier. That's for sure. For
Totally.
sure. All right. So I got a question for you.
Okay.
3 books that you would recommend to any up and coming wannabe, new, regardless of age, that made an influence on you that you would want to share with anyone who said, all right, Kimmy, what are the 3 books I should read?
Could it be in any theme? Like, does it have to be related to business, or it could be with
whatever
anything?
you want?
Okay. I love, and this is I give my clients, I think it's fantastic. I don't know if Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradberry, I think is fantastic. It's kind of like the newer version of emotional intelligence. And he has great exercises in there. There's a test that you can take at the end to see where you fall in your social and emotional intelligence. So I have a lot of my clients do that as a baseline to see where they're at. And I have one book for women and one book for men. And this, awesome. It does relate to dating, yet it shows up in how we relate to people, I think, in general. For women, it's, I have 2 in my mind. No, wait, let me do the men first. The man is No More Mr. Nice Guy. Okay. Have you heard of that one?
No.
It's by Robert Glover, and he's awesome. He actually came on my podcast, and it's about being too nice. And it's not really about not being nice. It's really about like setting boundaries, and how we show up and how we demand more for ourselves. Right. And let's see, for women. Oh my God. There's so many things. Oh no, I have one that I'll share that has to do with like everyone. Cause I'm looking at my books right now. How to Instantly Connect with Anyone by Leo Lonace.
How to instantly connect with anyone. Okay.
Yeah, because he kind of goes through some of the stuff that we talked about in ways of like connecting and relating, in ways of networking, connecting with people through like communication. He goes through some of the body language stuff. A lot of the stuff that I talk about, he goes through in his book, and that's a really good one too.
All of these that will help us raise our charisma quotient, so to speak.
Yes. And kind of come into your own and your confidence, because to me, when you're more confident and you create charisma, anything can happen. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah, right. I totally agree with that. So as we're wrapping up here, final words to all the groovesters and groove stars and on the way to becoming a groove star people that are out there, pull it all together for us about how having that sense of style that leads to that confidence, that builds that charisma, what can that do for the budding business person, entrepreneur?
Yeah, It's funny because over the years, I used to call myself a coach and, obviously I've been a therapist. Now I call myself a strategist, and I'll tell you why, because I believe as we get older and we go through our journeys, we just have a lot of patterns and habits that we've had that often stops us. And so really it's putting in some strategies that will override and change some of those patterns and habits. And by doing just like small things like changing your wardrobe, like making eye contact, like telling a story that can add up to the bigger win, because it's overwhelming when you hear, oh, just be more confident and be more charismatic. But like, if somebody knew how to do that, they would do that. And so my advice is to just start small and do things over and over again in repetition and practice till it becomes you. And even if you have to start with acting as if, right? Like we all have to act as if until we become, even just like with things that we've done in our previous life, everyone has to start somewhere. So if you're like a perfectionist and you are an overachiever, that gets hard sometimes because a lot of times you'll like be too outcome oriented and you'll shoot yourself way too high. And that's what freezes you. So if you just work on like little bits at a time, that's going to build your confidence with each thing that you do and, add up to the bigger success. And at the end of the day, we're always learning. There's never any like end game. It's almost like going back to the beginning and we were talking about really like the yellow brick road. And I was thinking about the Wizard of Oz. We all are trying to get to Oz, but as you know, there really isn't an Oz. It's just a man behind a curtain, And so we're constantly growing. Your business is going to shift. And that was like a journey that I had to also face too, because I always thought, well, now I've made it. It's like, no, it's like, well, I made one level, but no, I'm going to keep going to the next. So
yeah, I think so too. Kimmy, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I have some work to do in my closet.
I'm here to help you. Not really. Like, you're awesome. I love those glasses.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Listen, thanks on behalf of the entire Groove community, lots of resources here. And remember, hit that link and go get the kimmyseltzer.com/style. Hit that right there so that you can go get yourself checked out and figure out exactly what
body type you are if you're a woman, and what clothes flatter your figure, what clothes to stay away from. And if you're a man, I go over your body types and clothes that you should look at too, and also some grooming tips.
I'll bet you everybody is going to do that, because that's just way too juicy to not want to just go in there and, let me see what she's going to tell me that I could use here. Oh, yeah. So hit that link. Have some fun. Thank you so much, Kimmy. Big hug to you from the Groove community. And I really, really appreciate the time you've given us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was so fun.